Greetings, Pilgrim Church family. This is Danny here on Tuesday, May the 19th, with today's session of the 21-Day Challenge. Today's subject matter is outreach, and the passage of Scripture associated with that is taken from Matthew's Gospel, the 25th chapter, verses 35 through 40. In this passage, we have the scene painted by Jesus where he's come in his glory at the end of time. The King has called all people before him. He separated the people into two categories, that of sheep and goats, and he calls the ones he classifies as sheep, he calls them, he says, "Come be blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." And then in the next few verses, he gives the reasons why those sheep are being blessed. Beginning with verse 35, these are the words of Jesus. He says, "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothed you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer and say to them, "Assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of these, the least of my brethren, you did it to me." Beautiful picture that's painted there by Jesus. It tells me three things about God. First thing it tells me about God is that God is aware of our needs. He mentions 6 generic categories of need here: hunger, thirst, being a stranger, being naked, being sick, being in prison. And he tells us that God's aware of those. Secondly, this passage tells me he is aware of our efforts to meet those needs. He talks about the hungry being fed, the thirsty being given a drink, the stranger being welcomed in, the naked being clothed, the sick and the ones in jail being visited. But the third thing it tells me about God is that he recognizes our opportunities and the limitations attached to those opportunities. When he says the hungry were fed and the thirsty were given a drink, that speaks as if it's a one-time or as needed occurrence, that it's not for the rest of a person's life. When he talks about the naked being clothed and the stranger being welcomed, it has the same indication that it's a need that's met at the time, and not necessarily that we empower them for the rest of their lives. This is really evident in the last two, when he talks about the sick being visited and the ones in prison, that someone went to them. Notice he didn't say that when the sick were healed, or the ones in prison that you saw to their release, which would be the ultimate meeting of their needs. But he does say you went to visit them, you saw to them, and spent some time, and I'm aware of that. And then I love the last passage. Once the sheep question the king and say, "We don't recall ever seeing you in these situations in order to feed you and give you thirst, give you something to drink, to clothe you and welcome you as a stranger, and to visit you in prison or at being sick." And the Lord said, "No, that may be true, but though you didn't realize it at the time," he says, "anytime you did that to one of these others, you did it to me." And I like it when he says, "You did it to one of the least of these, my brethren." That speaks to me of how are they the least? Maybe they're the least in their occupation. Maybe they're the least in our financial situation. Maybe they're the least in their place in society. But God says, when you overlook that situation and focus on their need and attempt to meet that need, I was aware of that. And actually, I saw it as you doing that to me. It's a great lesson there in that passage. But when Jason gave us, charged the elders with the idea of posting a daily address on the 21-Day Challenge topics, he asked us to speak to how it affects us personally. This idea of outreach is one that truly speaks to me personally, because some 60 years ago, I was the youngest of 4 children in a family that was truly among the least financially in the little town of Pilgrim. We were among the least in our financial situation. We were among the least in our social status. But nevertheless, there was one individual that I recall very fondly who took it upon herself to reach out to us. In fact, she just lived right across the highway from us at the time. She was one of the daughters of the matriarch of the Anderson family, Miss Frances. And Miss Frances, for those of you who remember her, at this time in her life, she drove a little pink Rambler. And I still remember, I think it was a Saturday afternoon. She came up our driveway. We were all sitting out on the porch, just enjoying a summer day. And she came up to speak to our mom and dad, and she said, I'd like to ask if you would allow your children, if they wish to come to a Bible study with me. I'll be glad to come by and pick them up anytime they want to ride. Mom and Daddy agreed to that. We began riding with Miss Frances in her pink Rambler to Bible study. That led to us, of course, staying for worship services. It led to us attending Sunday night services, Wednesday night Bible study, vacation Bible school. That led to our parents, who I will admit they were Christians, but were not regular attenders. They began to attend more regularly. That led to my dad becoming a teacher, my dad becoming a deacon. That led to him beginning to follow Miss Frances's lead and reach out to others. And I believe that the outreach of Miss Frances, those many years ago, was a major factor in not only the person I am today, but more importantly, the Christian I am today. She instilled within me a desire to pay that forward, and to reach out to others as well in need. So I hope that appreciate you viewing this post today, and I hope that you find it beneficial. And I hope that God is blessing you in your day today. Look forward to when we can once again attend in person our gatherings, and hopefully that won't be too long from now. Take care, and God bless you.